All right, everybody, so what we've got going on here today and for the next few days is we have a big, beautiful Grand Design Solitude, and the customer is wanting to be able to off-grid a little bit. Nothing hardcore serious. He wants we're going to put 3 solar panels on, and got a Victron inverter, got a 600 hours of lithium batteries, and that's pretty much it, other than the little ancillary things. But that's what we're doing, and it's going to take a minute, but he's going to be happy with this, and it's going to be an exciting build. So we've got Jason here. We're going to get started on this today. Right now, just kind of getting a big picture of what we got going on. And here in our basement, our pass-through, we've got our battery disconnects here, and we've got a roof access channel or chase there on the rafter. You can see the sticker, and then over here we've got a cord reel. But I was just looking at that a minute ago, and that's not one of the hardwired cord reels. That's just a reel just to store it. You know, that's where you keep your cord. When you go camping, you pull it all off the reel and then go plug it in. So we're gonna have to find where the inlet goes into this camper. I do know that the breaker panel is in the kitchen under a cabinet, so obviously that wall will have to come out. This wall will probably have to get moved out of the way to be able to get behind where the breaker panel is and all that. But at the moment, I'm feeling like that inverter's going to have to go here, and probably going to have to put the batteries in here too. But if it's not too far of a run, we'll put the batteries down in the front compartment. But I just know that lithium does not like cold. But it doesn't sound like this guy's going to be camping in cold. He's talking about going to New Mexico and out west. But there is our wet lead acid batteries. Got 2 of those guys. Got some DC breakers back there. And there's where the DC cabling runs off to, behind that black plastic cover. Anyway, this is our situation. This is what we're doing, and we're going to bring you along with us. So let's get started. Okay, so we've decided that we are going to go ahead and do the batteries first, install the batteries, and then we are going to install our bus bars, our smart shunts, and our BMV controller. So with that being said, we've looked at the old battery situation from Grand Design, and I kind of showed you this already, but I'll show you again. This is our situation here. So this 100 amp is feeding the coach, the 80 amp is feeding the leveling system. We do have a battery disconnect behind that panel up there that we saw on the inside of the basement wall. So if we mount our batteries up in here, then we will be able to supply the DC voltage to the coach from here, and then we're going to have to run our big fat inverter cables from here through the wall to our inverter. So that's the lowdown at the moment. Alright, so pretty much here's our situation now. We've got our battery boxes out, got with the snorkels, the batteries, and this is what we're left over with. I took the covers off the wall here just to see what Grand Design has done here, and just as I knew, up here is the back side of that battery disconnect in the basement, and the little wires right there below it. These guys right here are the power for that tire links tire monitor system that this customer doesn't have. Again, wires here with the bell connectors, solar prep, and then 100 amp breaker, 80 amp breaker, 80 amps running the leveling system, and the power going to the 80 amp is also power to our DC mini breakers over here. And this runs up to battery disconnect, and then the battery disconnect power back down, runs off into the hole here, and that's going to be supply for the coach. This 100 amp here, I'm surmising that there is a small inverter somewhere, probably to run a residential refrigerator or something like that. So we're going to go pull down a basement wall and see what we've got going on behind that guy. And just as I suspected, we've got our transfer switch here for the generator prep, and sorry about that, but right here, that guy right there is an inverter. And the customer did tell me that when the coach is not plugged into shore power or anything of the sort, that the refrigerator still runs, the TV still works. So, yeah, I kind of already knew there was an inverter in here, but yeah, that 100 amp source, or that breaker, 100 amp breaker. There's our red cable back there, but let's get this wall out of here and investigate a little deeper what scenario we got going on here. All right, well, right through there, where all that Romex wiring is, you can see the back side of the breaker panel, and then right here is our power converter. Well, the whole job of this converter here is to keep the battery bank, keep the voltage up on your battery bank, and then it runs 12 volt house stuff too. But this this guy here will be obsolete when we're done with this job, because that Victron inverter will do all the battery charging. Alright, there's that red cable that I was telling you about. Runs off there. That way we've got a cable, red, basically the fat cables there are going to be our DC voltage. Yeah, this right here is going to our DC panel, and it's charging batteries and running appliances and stuff. And this guy here is probably coming straight from the battery disconnect. And then we've got this guy down here, which is going to be from that 100 amp breaker. And that is right there to the inverter. Alright, so this is kind of the lay of the land here. Getting a good look at the situation. So again, we're going to go to this wall here. I believe with the inverter, we're going to put those batteries in the bay up front, and this will all come together right nice. Very nice, very nice. All right, so I've just called the manufacturer of the batteries, Epic Batteries. You can see them right here in the back of the golf cart, and asked them about what do they recommend as far as where to install the batteries. The customer is wanting to put the batteries back where Grand Design put their lead acid batteries, which in my opinion is fine. It's a sealed compartment, even though it's not climate controlled. However, the guy at Epic pointed out, he said, our battery boxes are they're metal, so you definitely don't want them exposed to the elements at all. So he was, cautioning to take care as to, how to install these guys. Got a lot going on inside of these boxes. Very expensive. So I'm fine with putting it in here. We've got, weather strip around the door. I don't think that it's often or ever a norm that water and rainwater is getting in here, but as you can see, there's two holes in the floor, and that's where the battery boxes were. And they have I don't know if what you want to call it, the snorkel goes right here, which we'll have to take care of covering that up from the inside, because we don't want rainwater getting in this way, right? Because now there's no longer a hose attached to this. And this here is snorkel attaches to the battery boxes, and that allows any kind of gassing off the batteries may do to go out the vent. In order for that to happen, you've got to have the airflow from the bottom. Hey, tuna bear. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I've got some nice durable, flexible fiberglass sheeting, and I think what I'm going to do, take a little tape measure here. We're going to just kind of measure out the floor here, and I'm going to cut out a piece of fiberglass sheeting, and we're going to seal, put some sealant around these holes and in the screw holes here, and then we're going to lay that fiberglass sheeting down, and then put the batteries on top of that. That way we're just a little extra measure step of I don't know, peace of mind there, I guess. We ain't gonna get rainwater in here. Well, there's our dry fit. Looks pretty well. Pretty good. Have to notch it out a little bit right here where this weather strip is. And then the sheet metal angle here, 2 screws for this metal box. Take those screws out, lift it up, slip it underneath that flange, screw it back down. And yeah, like I said, throw some sealant around those holes. Set this down in here, and we'll have a nice little platform for those batteries to sit on. And then we need to mount those guys so they don't scoot around anywhere. Okay, not as easy as I thought it would be, but 2 screws out, and I had to use a flathead screwdriver, kind of, I don't know, break it loose for lack of better words, but I was able to get the edge of the fiberglass up to it and then push down on the floor, and that made enough gap for that fiberglass to get underneath it. So we'll throw the screws back in and throw some sealant around those holes, and this should be good to go. All right, so little break in the progress here. Instead of filming everything that we're doing, that can get a little tedious and unnecessary to watch me pull every screw out and do what I'm doing. So what I figured was I'll just take a big bite at this, and then we'll go back over it, because you guys have seen what we started with, what the factory put in and all that, what we found. Now we're going to show you the milestone that we're at right now. So let's go look up front where the batteries are. Okay, looks a little bit different in here, I'm for sure. We've got the batteries in here. Of course, they're not restrained yet, but I've got them in here to give me an idea of what I'm dealing with. But the plan is to have them together right here. We'll get some angle brackets to go around them to keep them from sliding around, and then we're going to take some boat strap and go over them and hold those guys in place. We went ahead and put our fuse holders on with our 300 amp fuses on the batteries. We removed the 100 amp breaker that was on the wall there and removed all the wire accordingly. All that had to do with was that little inverter that Grand Design put in. We removed that. The solar prep wire we moved out of the way. All of that generator wire harness wire there, we just zip tied it up onto the wall. Up there where those blue wires are hanging, blue and white wires are hanging, You can see the hole in the wall right up there. That was the Lippert tire link docking station. Taking that out of the equation since the customer don't use that. And we've added our positive 12-volt bus bar here, our smart shunt down here, and that's about where we are in this compartment here. But the inverter is going to be on the other side of that wall in the pass-through. So a few more holes are going to be made in the wall, and of course the DC cabling from the batteries going to go to the bus bar, and then we're going to have our positive from the bus bar to the inverter through the wall. And then on the smart shunt, you know, everything negative DC goes through that smart shunt before it goes to the batteries. That way measurements can be read, you know, as far as, you know, current voltage, state of charge on the batteries, things like that. So nothing negative side goes to the batteries unless it goes through the smart shunt first. So that cable that's on the smart shunt right now is the cable that Grand Design installed. So that's literally going from chassis frame to smart shunt. And then the inverter will go on with that same cable on that same lug. The inverter will go on that side. Alright, so that's what we've got going on right here. Oh, I forgot we removed the junction box that had the generator AC voltage cabling in it, and you can see where this 6.3 is. Well, there was a little termination of 6.3 in that junction box right there. But let me show you what we did here. This is my 6.3, and we've run a straight shot of this from here all the way to where the shore power cord will attach to the side of the camper. So by myself yesterday, I fished this from there to here, and wasn't horribly hard, but it is a lot of up and down on the ground, rolling around, getting in tight spaces, but we got it done. So now we'll have a straight shot from shore power cord plugged in here through the coach to the front compartment, and then this on the other end will go up through the wall right to the inverter. So it'll be a straight shot. So that Victron inverter is going to do the jobs of several different appliances. So, you know, yesterday I showed you the small inverter that Grand Design put in. Well, we've taken that out because it's not needed. The Victron will take its place. Right above it was the transfer switch. So shore power right here on the wall ran to it. The generator prep ran to that transfer switch, and then the transfer switch feeds the breaker panel. Well, the transfer switch is not needed. All power is going to, basically that Victron's going to be the transfer switch, not necessarily for a generator, but you know, if it's going to run off the battery bank or is it going to run off shore power. The Victron will be the transfer switch in that regard. So the transfer switch has been removed, and then that stretch of wire of 6.3 from the breaker panel to where the transfer switch was, we're going to replace that. We're going to run some 6.3 from the breaker panel to the inverter, because we've got power to the inverter, but we need power out of the inverter going to the breaker panel. So we're going to be working on that today. Let me show you in the pass through here behind the wall what it is that we did yesterday. All right. So today you can see that power converter right there. The flashlight's shining right on it. This guy right here, that's our deck mount converter. And since we don't need that anymore, because the Victron will take its place on charging the battery bank up. We are going to remove the power converter, and as you can see here, here's our 6.3 to the breaker box. And then I had a short stretch of 6.3 like this coming from, you know, behind the water heater over there in that gap in the wall. That's where the shore power inlet wire was coming through, and it had a termination right here because the transfer switch was right here. And then of course the generator prep had one here too. Well, I've pulled out as much of that shore power 6.3 as I could, and then the generator 6.3 I pulled out as well. Today, like I already said, we'll be pulling this out, removing this, and then adding 6.3 from that breaker panel, which is up there where all those wires are, and running it down and underneath the coach and all the way to the front so that we can put our inverter right here. That's the game plan. So here's the transfer switch that we took out of the camper. It's a pretty typical WFCO appliance. This is the way Grand Design had it sitting in there, so when I showed you, this is the angle that you saw it from. But you can see here everything's pretty well labeled in here. Generator, power cord, control panel or breaker panel, and you know, so they had the wire restraints here, and the 6.3 cabling in, out, and to get this out, I mean, of course they got the little wings down here. It was screwed to the floor, and then over here it's just a matter of breaking loose the screw terminals, and then you can pull the wire right out, pull it out the wire restraints. This guy here is left over because this screw would not break loose. Don't know what happened there, but yeah, that guy was not coming out. So we just cut the cable. But that's how we removed the transfer switch. The inverter, pretty cut and dry, in about the same way. Here, stand by. Alright, here we are again. Again, a WFCO product, inverter, and right next to the inverter on the floor in there was a receptacle, and that plugs into the receptacle. Also, the in-house vacuum cleaner plugged into that. And then here's our DC cabling. So this inverter was drawing off the battery bank to run that refrigerator and the television. And as long as this converter right here is working properly, it would be charging the battery bank while this draws off the battery bank to run those two appliances. So we don't need that anymore. And because, well, you can see right here on the back of the inverter right here, this little wire restraint is where our Romex went in for the circuit to feed the refrigerator and the TV. So we removed that. So now we have a circuit. It's got no energy. So what are we gonna do? So we figured it'd be rather look at my face than the floor. Anyway, there's a breaker in that panel that runs that power converter. Well, since we're eliminating the power converter from the equations because the Victron will charge the batteries, we went ahead and used that breaker, which is a 15 amp breaker, pretty standard stuff, to run the refrigerator and the TV. So we took that Romex that had no home, run it up to the breaker panel, put it onto that breaker that used to power the power converter. And then all we're gonna do is just change the label for it to say refrigerator TV. All right, now admittedly, I'm not showing you guys all of the nitty gritty, the you know, the step by step of taking out every screw and bolt, and you know, basically how the sausage is made. But I'm going to give you an overview. But if you want real good step by step, this is how you do it kind of a thing with inverters and batteries and solar panels, I highly recommend the Explorers Life channel on YouTube. I think just about any questions that you could have, they've got answers for. You know, as far as how big of a system do I need, and how do I figure out how many watts of solar I, you know, would need to do what I want it to do. And so let me show you where we're at now. All right. I don't have the batteries the batteries mounted in yet. One reason is because Epic batteries, for whatever reason, accident I'm sure, one battery came with caps, a cat cable, and lugs, and the other battery didn't. So I took the 2 lugs that I did have, and I went ahead and mounted my my fuse holders and my fuses on both batteries. But as far as putting the batteries in and scotching them up and strapping them down and all that, I didn't want to do that yet. I've got a lot of this stuff to play with still. So earlier in the updates, I showed you where I ran one full line of 6.3 from here all the way to the inlet on the wall outside. And again, it gets back to that transfer switch. I did not want to add junction boxes and big wire nuts and wire nutting in such heavy duty cable like that together. It can be done, but one straight stretch of 6.3 is better and a little bit safer than having a junction box and a possible failure point. So one of those is to there, and of course the other cable from the breaker panel to the transfer switch is the other one that had to be replaced. So from the breaker panel in the side in the kitchen all the way to here. So one of these is to the breaker panel, one of these is to the inlet, and both of these are going to go to a hole in the wall that's going to happen here in a while, and these guys are going to get wired into the inverter. You can see our bus down there with our smart shunt below it, and yeah, we'll have cables from our batteries going to that bus bar. We'll have a cable coming from our battery cutoff switch and an inverter coming to this bus bar, and then of course at the right side of that smart shunt right there, we'll have the negatives of these batteries wired onto that smart shunt there. And you can, as you can see, the smart shunt has already got its power wire in. It's got its data cable clicked in. Just in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, here's the data cable. And this runs all the way inside to the kitchen. We've got his little BMV mounted so that he can open up a pantry door and see what his state of charge is on his batteries. And this is the power wire for the smart shunt. It's got a little inline fuse right there. So that's what's going on in here. And then up on the wall, you'll see some screws. You'll see that board with some screws through it. I reinforced the wall where we hung the inverter. And that's the backside of all the through bolts that I put in to hold that board to the wall instead of just using screws. So let's go look at that. I'll show that to you. This is how fat guys get into a pass-through. All right, here we are. Here's our battery disconnect switch that we're going to use, and the power from that bus bar we just looked at is going to come to this. It'll come to this and come out of this and run into our inverter right here. Surely you can see the lugs there for our DC, and then over here at these green blocks, this is where AC voltage from shore power is going to go in, and AC voltage is going to come out and run back through the wall, back around under the coach, and back to the breaker panel. And got our smart charge controller hung, and that guy, you know, with the satellite roof cable access channel, we're going to run our MC4 connecting cables down through this access and run them around, and those two cables will have their own cutoff right here, and they will plug into the PV side of this, and then we'll have cabling running from here down back to those buses. So back down to the smart shunt, not the battery side of the smart shunt, but the other side, and then the positive to the positive bus bar. And that's how solar on the roof through this charge controller will charge the battery bank. And that's it for now, and I'll show you some more later. All right, guys, going to give you another update as to how far along we've gotten on this Solitude with the electrical system swap out, and I can see the finish line. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting close. Let me see if I can get this compartment door to unlock. Apparently, I didn't unlock it. So, all right, here we go. Here we go. All right. So since you've seen me last, which I know when watching the video was probably just seconds ago, but this is what we've got going on. We've got, I think I've already showed you the inverter installed, got the backing board, the solar charge controller. Well, as you can see, the wiring coming out of the controller to our cutoff switch, our solar wiring running out of the cutoff switch at the bottom and up across the rafters there and through our roof access hole. So all of the solar wiring is run and installed. So Tony, are you saying that means there's panels on the roof? Yeah, there's panels on the roof now. Let's go look at them. All right, here we go. The customer only wanted 3 panels, so we got them 3 200-watt panels. And there's our wire gland there, and that's where the hole down in the basement goes to. And Grand Design did a favor that I've not seen them do before, but they had a string attached somewhere up here under the roof, all the way down through the chase and attached to the roof down in the basement. So all we had to do was hook some wiring up to that string and pull it up, and that's what we did. We pulled up 2 wires at once, and so here you go. We've got these panels wired in series. So if you think about like a flashlight, you know, your batteries go in, for example, positive to the light bulb. Well, the next battery is going positive to the negative of the front battery, right? So each battery is just compounding on top of one another. So each battery is what, a 1.5 volt. So every battery you put in is doubling the voltage, doubling the voltage. You know, so if you got a flashlight with 4 D-cell batteries in it, you've got a, what, 6 volt flashlight. Well, here we run these in series, so they're 12 watt, well, 12 volt. You can't even say that they're 12 volt because the solar charge controller knocks it down to 12 volt. But we've got our inline fuse here. If anything decides it wants to short out, we've got a fuse there. But this panel, we've got this wire running to the positive of this panel, and then the negative of this panel is running to the positive of that panel, and the negative of that panel is running to the positive of that panel, and then the negative of this panel is running off downstairs to our solar charge controller. And the other day when it was dusk already, I don't know, 7:30 in the evening, so the sun wasn't high at all, and yeah, I had about 63 volts down there at that solar charge controller. So these panels are working like a champ. These are Rich Solar, the 200-watt mega panels. So, and this is it's more work than it looks like. You got to take the panel out of the box, you got to install all the feet, and then of course bring it up here, prepare your surfaces, got to put a little bit of butyl tape under each foot, little 1-inch long tech head self taps in all those feet. So we got 8 feet per panel, screwed all down, and we used this Sikaflex over all the feet. All right, back down here into the land of the living. As you can see, we've got our big fat 4-aught cables there. That's going to be for the DC side of the inverter. We'll have to build those cables out and wire them into the inverter, run it through a hole in the wall, and run it to, well, we'll run the red positive to the positive bus, and the black will run straight to the smart shunt. And then I've got some battery cables built, almost done. Let's go look at that. Let's see, we've got our positive cables built out, and let's see, one side of these, the lug sizes are different on each side of the cable. On this side we've got 5/16 hole, and on the other side of the cable we've got the 3/8 hole. Well, the 3/8 is a bigger hole, obviously, and that's going to go on those bigger lugs there at the bus. But our termination fuse holder here, that lug is not as big. So the little 5/16 side will go here, 3/8 side will go there, and then once I get the negative battery cables built, which I was missing 2 lugs, we would need a 3/8 lug for the battery side, and then a 3/8 for the smart shunt side. You can see it's going to have to be a big enough hole to go around that guy. So I've got the cables cut, the length, I just haven't built them out yet. But guys, that's the long and the short of what we got going on right now. It's coming along right nice. So we'll it's basically down to just building cables and putting it together. So I'm excited to get this finished. I know the customer's going to be excited to get it back. And yeah, we got to get the batteries restrained. I got some angles for those. Got some heavy duty boat battery strap to hold those guys in, because they are big, heavy batteries. Here's my negative cables that I need to build out for those batteries. And the lugs. See, my problem was I only had 2. That's one side of the cable. I need lugs for the other side, and I just got those yesterday. Got those picked up. Got our heat shrink here and ready to go. Over here, I'll show you what I got to hold those batteries in place. Got a couple angles there, and I don't know, I may cut them, make 4 of them out of it. I don't know, we'll see what I end up doing. But angles with some straps, and the what the straps hook to and screw into the floor with are stainless brackets. So we'll screw those guys down to the floor. And let's see, got my termination fuse holder here, and a 75 amp fuse, and what that's going to be for is the battery side of the solar charge controller to the battery side is going to be fused with this, and we'll just be using 6 gauge cable for that. And then where'd my lugs go? And here's my lugs for the other side of that battery cable, so we'll be able to get that done, hooked up. And man, after you get all the wiring done, all it's left to do is do the programming. Pair it up to your phone, and program your smart shunt, program your charge controller, and the inverter's already been programmed, and then should be ready to get out there and do a little bit of boondocking. So until the next update. Hola, mi amigos. We're done. We got the solar inverter upgrade done on our Solitude here. And I'm going to show you how it ended up, how it turned out. Go through here into the pass-through first. And this is where all the magic happens, right here. Now I know I gave you some updates previously, but this is the finished product. We got our inverter here, as you can see, got some lights on. It's float charging the battery bank at the moment, and solar charge controllers on absorption. Got our all our wiring restrained. Some wire management there. Got used a riv nut into the frame here to ground our solar charge controller, to equipment ground it. And then on the inverter, I kind of did the same thing up here. Used a riv nut and run a cable up there into that frame. But yeah, man, we've got our 6.3 from the shore power inlet, other 6.3 to the breaker box, our equipment ground, 12 volt positive, negative, 12 volt positive, negative here. This is how the solar is translated to charging the batteries, is through these guys. Got our solar on off here, our coach on off there that Grand Design put in. But yeah, this is the final result of it, and let's go show you the battery side of it. I really love doing these jobs. I like the creative aspect of it. But anyway, we got our two Epoch batteries, or Epic, however they pronounce it, 300 amp hour batteries, and we've got those guys. Can't really see real well. Grab a flashlight out of my pocket. Here we go. Alright, so there's our smart shunt right down there that I'm shining the light on. Two battery cables here that are fused. And honestly, guys, I don't remember what my fuse rating is on these here. It's pretty high. I'm wanting to say it's probably 300 amps or something like that. But I've got our battery positive cables going to this bus bar right here. So battery 1, battery 2, this goes to the inverter, and this is coming from the solar charge controller, and it's fused. And then we've got our house power. You can't really see it, it's down here. House power, and it runs this 80 amp breaker, runs the hydraulic system. House power goes up here through our mini breakers, and then up through here through our battery cutoff switch on the other side of the wall. And then down below, we've got our negative breaker bus bar down here. So inverter negative is to the bus, the house negative, and then our solar charge controller negative. And then from that bus to the smart shunt, we just got this short cable right here, and all devices negative to this side of the smart shunt, and then the batteries off the other side of the smart shunt. And that right there reports to us all the information we need to know. And then of course over here is our AC voltage lines going through the hole in the wall over there. But there you have it, guys. That's the long and the short of it. We got the panels on the roof, which I've already shown you. Showed you how those were wired in. Showed you how they got wired down to the basement. There's a lot of work involved in this, but it's so much of it is just figuring the layout. What's a good layout? Of course, the wire management. You don't, want your cabling too long, but really honestly, my battery cables are a little on the long side for the distance between the batteries and where they have to go, where they have to hook up. But I made the battery cables long before I figured out where I was going to put the batteries, and next time I won't do that. I'll figure out where I put my batteries first and then build the cables, and that way they're not too long. but they're not that long. They're just a little too long. But anyhow, like I said, I love this work. I look forward to doing more of this work. It's really exciting to go and turn everything on and see it all come alive. So yeah, we've already run, I mean, the AC and the DC. We've run the inverter. We were running an air conditioner on it yesterday, and we've got you know, AC voltage hooked up to shore power right now, so the inverter is charging the battery banks up. But man, everything's working great, working like it should. So anyhow, it's not an impossible job to do. You know, it's not like, I don't know, it's not super easy, but it ain't rocket science either. But anyhow, just thought I would let you guys in on that, how it turned out. And we'll see you guys on the next one. And before I go, to which at this point most people turn the video off, but really would appreciate your subscribes, your likes, your shares, and all that. It helps the algorithm get our videos out there in front of more people, get our videos in front of more eyeballs, so that we can help with what we know. We don't know it all. We don't know all the tricks, the gimmicks, but we're just out here doing our best, and we just want to help people out. So anyhow, if you give us a thumbs up, we sure would appreciate it, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Adios, amigos.